All right, today we're jumping into a topic that's pretty complex and honestly often misunderstood: agoraphobia. So let's get right to it.
So, when you hear that word, agoraphobia, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of people, it's a fear of big open spaces, right? But, well, that's just not the whole story. It's really just one small piece of a much, much bigger puzzle.
Okay, so the actual clinical definition. It tells a completely different story, a much more nuanced one. The key here, and this is really important, is that the fear isn't about the space itself. It's about feeling trapped. It's the fear that if something went wrong, you couldn't escape or get help. And that simple shift in focus, it changes everything. We're suddenly talking about way more than just open fields.
So, we've got that down, right? The core fear isn't the place, it's the feeling of being trapped. With that key idea locked in, let's dive into what that actually looks like in day-to-day life.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Because look at these triggers. It's not just about open spaces. In fact, it can be the total opposite, like a packed concert or a crowded bus. Think about it. Being on a bridge, stuck in a line at the store, or even just leaving your home alone. What do all of those things have in common? It's that feeling, right? That feeling of being stuck, of being vulnerable, of not having an easy way out.
Okay, so when you see all these different triggers, you have to ask, where does this even come from? It's a really good question. And to get a real handle on agoraphobia, we have to dig into its origins. You know, this usually doesn't just show up out of the blue. A lot of the time, it starts after someone has a really terrifying panic attack, or maybe a few of them. What happens is, their brain makes this powerful connection, this link between the place where the panic attack happened and that awful feeling of terror. So, what do? They start avoiding that place. It can also grow out of other really stressful or traumatic experiences, or even long-term anxiety, where the world just slowly starts to feel like a really unsafe place.
All right, so we've looked at the what and the why from an outside perspective. But to really, truly get it, we need to step inside. We need to try and understand what it feels like for the person going through it.
And this really breaks it down perfectly. You've got these two things happening at once. Internally, there's this overwhelming wave of pure panic, a feeling of being completely helpless, completely trapped. And that intense internal feeling, it sets off a huge alarm in your body. It triggers a very real, very physical reaction. Your heart starts racing. You might start sweating, feel dizzy, like you can't breathe. It's your body's fight or flight system just going into absolute overdrive.
So, what do you do when you're terrified that that feeling could hit you at any moment in any of those places? Well, you do the logical thing. You start to avoid them. And this quote, it just nails the impact this has on someone's life. Your world literally starts to shrink. More and more places get crossed off the safe list until, for some, even leaving the house feels impossible.
Yeah, hearing about a world shrinking like that, it sounds incredibly tough. But here's the thing, and this might be the most important part of this whole explainer. There is absolutely a hopeful path forward. So let's talk about what works. Let's look at the treatments. The great news is that treatment is really effective, and it usually follows a clear plan. The foundation, the absolute cornerstone, is something called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This helps you challenge and change those thought patterns that kick off the panic. Then, that's combined with something called gradual exposure, and this part is so crucial. It's about slowly and in a safe way reintroducing yourself to those feared situations to prove your brain, hey, I can handle this. It's kind of like building up a muscle. You start small. And to help with all that, things like relaxation techniques and sometimes medication can be a huge support, making the whole journey a lot smoother. I want to just pause on this for a second, because this is the key message. No matter how overwhelming agoraphobia might feel, it is absolutely treatable. It is not a life sentence. With the right help and the right tools, people can and they do get their lives back. If you take away one thing from this, let it be that.
So there you have it. We've gone from that common idea of fear of open spaces to a much deeper understanding of what agoraphobia really is, where it comes from, and importantly, how it's treated. So I'll just leave you with this final question to think about. Now that we know all this, how can we, as friends, as family, as a community, use this understanding to better support the people in our lives who might be facing this? Thanks for digging into this with me.